In this lesson, we are going to take a look at a feature called closed corner. We're going to use this feature to close the four corners of this sheet metal part. I am going to begin by zooming in on this first corner here, and I'll rotate the model just so you can see we have a pretty good sized gap between these two flanges. And we want to minimize that gap with the closed corner feature. To access this feature, we need to go to the sheet metal ribbon and select the drop-down corners and then closed corner. The property manager opens and it's fairly short in length, only a few settings here. On the top half of the property manager, we have two windows, faces to extend and faces to match. Now before I go out to the screen and select faces to extend, I do want to talk about this last option here, auto propagation. This is checked by default. What this does is when I go out and select the faces to extend, the Solidworks software will automatically propagate this window here with the appropriate face. So going out to the screen, I'm going to select this face to extend, and like I mentioned, this is propagated, and this is the face 2. Moving on down the property manager, we have three different corner types: butt, overlap, and underlap. Let's try out each one of the three just to see how they look on the screen. I'm going to begin with butt and then close out of the feature. And there is a butt corner on the screen. I'm going to go back and edit the feature. And let's change it to overlap. Close out of the feature. And there's an overlapping corner. Go back into the feature again. And then underlap. Close out of the feature. And it's just the opposite of overlap. Now, we are not merging these two flanges. We're simply minimizing the gap between them, or the space between them. In fact, I can roll this model around, and you're going to see we still have a small gap present between the two flanges. If I go back into the feature, that gap, you do have control over that. Right now, it is set to a gap distance of 0.10 millimeters. And notice you can increase it or decrease it. We have another setting here called overlap underlap ratio. This value can be anywhere from 0 to 1. If I have it set to 1, I have a full overlap like you see here. However, if I have it set to 0, there will be no overlap, as you see here. So I'm going to put it back to 1. Even though the two flanges in this model are perpendicular to one another, this command can be used on non-perpendicular corners, and it can also be used on flanges with bends other than 90 degrees. Now before I close out of this lesson, we can also use this command for multiple corners. And I do want to do that, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I am going to select the other three corners. I'm going to pick inside of the window faces to extend, zoom up on the second corner, and select this face. Faces to match, select this face, roll the model around, do the same over here. Faces to extend, faces to match. And the fourth corner. Faces to extend, faces to match. Close out of the command, place it back to an isometric view, and we have 4 closed corners. And this concludes our lesson on closed corners.